Now, finding free stuff being given away isn't as difficult as it used to be. Before, you had to go out of your way to find equipment being given away, and what I mean by that is that you had to physically get up and leave the comfort of your own home, go out and look for something that someone's given up on and put by the curb. Now, with social media, you don't have to do that, but is it really any better than the old way? In today's video, we're going to look at this Troy-built mower, and the problem is that I don't know anything about it, and that's because I just found this mower being given away for free in my own neighborhood. Now, I've already made a video repairing this mower, and if you want to see that video, there should be a link to it at the top of the screen or at the end of the video. But before I try and fix it, I need to give it a quick cleaning. That way I don't get dirt in places where it shouldn't be, like in the carb, fuel tank, or inside the engine. The other reason I need to clean it is because I need to keep my hands clean since I'm filming it. I don't mind getting my tools or my hands dirty while working, but getting my video equipment dirty is something I try to avoid doing. Now that may not apply to you, but it's important to me. While I'm cleaning this mower, I'm going to talk about how I used to get free equipment years ago before I started using social media, and then I'll talk about how I find stuff currently, and you're going to see a huge difference, or at least that's what you might think. So about a decade ago, I used to have long conversations with my coworkers about using online sites to find free stuff being given away, and I'm not just talking about lawn equipment, but also other items as well. But to be honest, I was never really successful at picking anything up, so how did I find stuff to fix then? Now, what I used to do might seem a bit strange to some people, and there's a good reason why though. That's because it was. The easiest way was to wait for the evening before trash day and drive around the neighborhood looking to see if anyone had put anything good by the curb next to the trash cans. Now, this sort of behavior can obviously appear to be a bit suspicious, especially if someone sees you driving around in the evening. Just be smart and try not to drive by the same house more than once if possible. Now, this method is not for everyone. In fact, I would insist that you not use it. The reason is pretty simple. It helps to ensure that I pick up stuff and you don't. The other reason is because it puts a lot of wear and tear on your vehicle, and not to mention using quite a bit of fuel because of unnecessary driving. Now, a less odd approach to this method would be to incorporate it into an exercise routine where you take a walk around the neighborhood, and if you find something, just pick it up or just push it home. The good part about this method is that most people don't get out and exercise anymore, so your chances of finding something are pretty good. The other reason is that most people who are exercising are not in the business of finding stuff to take home to fix. The only issue is that depending upon your fitness level, you may not get too far away from your own house, and if you want to have a larger range, you're going to need to use a bicycle or better yet, your vehicle. Another byproduct of all that walking or cycling would be better fitness, but if you're not interested in getting into shape, just get in your car and drive around. Now, I would try to keep your route short though, something that might only take about 10 to 15 minutes of driving. The reason is, of course, being the fuel you use to look for stuff will eventually add up to the point that by the end of the year, the cost of the fuel you use to find stuff could easily have bought you a brand new Honda mower, so be very careful on how much you drive. Now, depending upon the type of person you are, this could very easily take over your lifestyle, so please be very careful. If you feel as though you might be going out to look for stuff more often than you should, or if it's taking up too much of your precious time, I definitely try to slow down a bit. So how in the world could this be that interfering in someone's life? Well, let me tell you how. Finding a free mower on the side of the road can be quite exhilarating, especially the first one you find. Then when you try and fix it, you might also find it extremely rewarding once you get it working, especially if it was a simple fix. Then you can either use that mower on your own personal lawn, and ultimately you end up saving hundreds of dollars by simply being lucky enough to find a free mower the night before trash day. But for others, it might go beyond that. Someone's going to find a mower on the curb, fix it that day, and in a couple of hours have it sold for hundreds of dollars. So they basically just turned someone else's junk into a lot of money in only a couple of hours of work. That's better than going to any casino or playing a scratch-off game. So in the end, to be rewarded in the same way is just as powerful as gambling is to some other people. Simply put, it's a legal way to get high but not have to pay all that money or get in trouble with the authorities. So who wouldn't want to get a free mower if the results are so great? Of course, you're not going to find a free mower on every street corner in your neighborhood, so I hate to tell you how your first outing is going to go, but even if you happen to find a free piece of equipment once a month, consider yourself very lucky, and even if you happen to get all of them fixed and sold, you'll have made a fair bit of spending money. Now that we talked about the old way of getting stuff, let's talk about the new way. So typically I use two sites to find the stuff I get for free, and I've been successful enough that I haven't had to roam around the neighborhoods anymore. That means I don't have to walk, bike, or drive around like I used to years ago. The only thing I have to do now is to check both sites frequently at certain times of the day, and more so on certain days of the week, and especially on holidays. So it's basically changed my whole outlook at getting stuff in a way that I never thought it would. Now, one of the ways it's changed the way I get stuff is that I can now find items being given away across town or even in the neighboring towns instead of just the one I live in. That changed my effective range from about 1 to 2 square miles to a lot more. Now, I do have some boundaries to the range I watch out for. The furthest I've ever had to drive so far has been roughly 40 miles. Now, for that pickup, I did make contact with the owner just to guarantee that it's still going to be there when I arrive. Otherwise, there's simply no point in a first come, first served situation and having to drive that far. Now, a decade ago, I would never have considered driving almost an hour away just to roam a neighborhood for free stuff, but with social media, it's not as difficult to consider anymore. Now, maybe you still think driving that far is a bit crazy, and for the most part, you would be right, but the rewards for a bit of driving and an hour of fixing, some people would find it more than enough. If that's not you, I can understand why. Now, some of you might be wondering what two sites I use and why is it that I don't mention them outright. The answer is quite simple. I'm not here to promote either one of the sites. It simply doesn't benefit me to do that. If you want to know what the sites are, simply look in the comments, especially if you're about to make a comment asking about it. Now, I know there are plenty of presenters out there who would gladly mention anything and everything without hesitation, but that's up to them and I'm not them. So how else has this new technology changed the way I've been able to pick up equipment? One of the biggest changes, aside from the areas I get to choose from, is being able to pick and choose what I go after. I hate to admit this, but not everything I find online that's free is something that I want to even pick up. But why is that? Wouldn't you want to jump on every free item you find? No, not really. There have been a few items that I simply looked at and said, nope, someone else can have that one. So it might sound like I'm being very particular, but there are some items that simply do not interest me in any way. So am I just being weird or am I justified? To answer that one, I'll give you a great example. Last year I saw an ad for a leaf vacuum and a very old walk-behind trimmer. Now these two items were in a town that was about 35 miles away, but I saw the ad only 15 minutes after posting, so my chances were very good that I picked them up. There's just one issue. I only wanted the vacuum and not the trimmer. But why? So it was the end of summer and near fall, and a leaf vacuum would be an easy sale. The problem was the trimmer. This thing must have been older than me, in a lot worse shape. The other issue was that it wasn't going to fit in my SUV, so my only target was the vacuum. After driving about 40 minutes, I finally arrived at the location, only to be very disappointed. When I arrived, the ancient trimmer was the only thing left and the vacuum was gone. That meant I wasn't the only one being particular about what I picked up, so my little trip across 3 towns was very unfruitful. Fortunately, my SUV gets great gas mileage, so it didn't cost me that much in fuel, only to be let down. Now, you might think this sort of disappointment would keep me from pursuing any items that might be more than 30 minutes away, but it only makes me more resourceful. Now, I have been known to call people I know that live in the same area and politely ask them if they have the time and the ability to help me out. Now, it doesn't happen all the time, but sometimes they get lucky and the person I called was able to pick up the items for me. And of course, if they couldn't do it for me, I would thank them for their time and jump into my car, roll the dice, and see if I can make it there in time before the next person gets there. Now for me, once I pick up something, my goal is to not fix it immediately, but I do try to get to it as soon as possible. The main reason is of course my other obligations, but to be honest, the mower, blower, or trimmer wasn't working before I got it, and it's certainly not going to fix itself, so it can certainly wait until I get to it. The issue is sometimes it might take me a long time to get back to it, and I don't always recall what the ad said about it, so to get around that issue, I'll typically take a screenshot of the ad, that way I can reference it when I make my video about it. I will say this, after doing this hobby for the last decade, things have changed quite a bit since the first blower I ever picked up all the way to the mower you see in this video, but the exhilaration I get when I jump out of the car to pick something up hasn't changed at all. To be honest, there have been times where I'll go after an item that's been posted just a little too long, and the chances are slim to none that I'll get it, but the thrill is still real, and I really do enjoy the excitement of the chase. I will say one thing, and that's if you go for an item, just be very careful when trying to get to the location. Try not to speed or do any questionable driving, otherwise your trip to get something for free might just get you a speeding ticket, or even worse, it's simply not worth it sometimes. That's yet another difference between how it's changed from then until now. Back then, it wasn't a race against time or other people who are trying to do the same thing you're doing. Now, I'm going to bring up a terrible situation. Things have changed for a lot of people in the last couple of years, and in that time, things have become so desperate that has caused even more people to do this sort of hobby. This increased demand for free items has made the free market a bit more competitive, but to be honest, it just means that every successful pickup is even more rewarding. I have also noticed one more terrible side effect, which is I'm seeing less items being given away and instead being sold as is, not running. And the worst part is that there are people out there who are willing to buy them. Now, it's getting so bad that even I've considered buying a few of these non-running items just to be able to have stuff to film. The other issue is the asking price for these non-running items is a lot higher than it should be. That's the desperation showing itself again, and until things change around here and probably in a few other faraway places around the world, this might be the normal from now on. Unfortunately, with the way things are headed, it might mean that I might have to go back to my old method of driving around, but like I mentioned earlier, that method has a lot of drawbacks, and I don't think I'm ready to deal with them just yet. I'd like to think things would get better, but wishing for things never gets you anywhere. So until then, start keeping an eye out for stuff sitting on the side of the road, next to the trash cans, or even by the dumpsters, because you never know when you might find something that someone's given up on that you might be able to get working again, and even make a few bucks along the way. And if you're into checking out social media sites, they may work out better for you than driving around. So is the newer method really any better than the older method of getting stuff for free? Yes, it is, but it also comes with other issues that you have to deal with. So my question is, would you rather drive around looking for stuff to pick up, or would you rather look on your phone to find free items being given away? Now, at this point, I take either method, but only you can decide which one is going to work for you. Thank you for watching. I really do appreciate your time here. Please feel free to ask me any questions about this project or about your own projects, and I hope to see you in the next video.